Okay, let's move on and look at the Asian markets. Of course, dinner time as we speak. Markets there struggled Thursday, closed mixed. The Japanese benchmark down more than 1%. No thanks to the Toshiba's multi-billion-dollar story. We've been talking about the conglomerate tumbled on credit downgrades. So you look at the Japanese Nikkei 225 down 1.32%, weighed largely by pressures from a stronger yen and Toshiba's plunging shares more than 40%. In Australia, the ASX 200 was higher about 0.25% this Thursday, supported by 3.25% gain in all its ordinaries gold sub-index. South Korea's Kospi was about 1/10 of the day, on the day, higher. Meantime, look at mainland China, the Shanghai Composite down 0.18% and the Shenzhen Composite also negative 0.31%. In Taiwan, the Hang Seng was nearly flat at about 305 in the evening ahead of its November trade figures released after the market close. So let's say good morning, America. Meantime, ahead of that formal opening a couple of hours, about 2 hours Nigerian time from now, the stocks index futures pointed to a flat open as investors prepared to wade through more economic data, digging for any chance of the Dow Industrial Average reaching 20,000 before the end of tomorrow, the final trading day of 2016. On Wednesday, the DJIA fell as much as 113 points during this session, a second triple-digit loss since the U.S. election, and closed 0.5% lower at 19,833.68. And that's where the stocks futures you'll see there right now. As a result, today, hope for the Dow topping 20,000 before 2016 ends is slowly falling away for investors. Now, on the economic data front, today we'll see the release of the most recent U.S. jobless claims data. That will be out 8:30 a.m. Eastern. That's a very important data on the U.S. calendar. We'd like to find out what the numbers are as President Obama's administration prepares for an exit. And on top of that is the U.S. trade deficit data, also coming out 8:30 a.m. as the market opens with the opening bell on Wall Street. From U.S. to Mozambique. Now the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission says it's investigating the sale of $850 million bonds issued by Mozambique via Credit Suisse, Russia's VTB Capital, and BNP Paribas. Those three companies were the financial advisors. The Southern African nation says last October that its debt was unsustainable, and the International Monetary Fund suspended assistance to the landlocked country when evidence of $2 billion in secret loans emerged. The bonds were sold in 2013 to finance a Mozambican state-owned firm's plans to develop tuna fishing in the impoverished nation, but the government later said it had also bought military equipment with the money. So, the U.S. SEC last month asked bondholders for documents provided by Credit Suisse, VTB Capital, and BNP Paribas, the three financial institutions, during the sale of the bonds, citing a letter to the bondholders. Some good news from West Africa, where the region's second largest economy, Ghana, has posted a gross domestic product growth of 4% in the third quarter of 2016. And that was the period Nigeria, the largest economy, posted 2.06% in recession. The figure posted by Ghana was higher, slightly higher than the figure 3.6% posted a year ago due to increased oil production at its Jubilee field. For years, Ghana's economy grew at 8% every year on the back of its gold, oil, and cocoa exports, but that has slowed down since 2013, due partly to lower global commodity prices. The growth in Ghana is subject to a slight change as the Statistics Office agrees on a final number. The government of outgoing President John Mahama sets a full year 2016 GDP target of 4.1% growth and says that will jump to around 8% in 2017 as new offshore oil and gas come on stream. Take a quick look at what's happening as far as the weather conditions are in Africa in 2016. Farmers, herders and families across the southern African parts of East Africa among millions who are affected by the El Nino weather conditions affecting livestock and people. This is one report you need to watch and see how lives are being affected by adverse weather conditions as we wrap up 2016.
Parts of East and Southern Africa remained on the grip of a devastating drought in 2016 that left millions hungry and saw the cost of staple food soar. An El Nino weather pattern caused by warming of sea surface temperatures of the Pacific Ocean triggered drought conditions across Southern Africa, leaving over 60 million people facing food shortages. In Somalia's semi-autonomous regions of Somaliland and Puntland, the drought made an already challenging humanitarian situation there worse, causing shortages of water and pasture, as well as causing death of livestock, a lifeline for pastoralists.
I am 80 years old. In the 80 years of my life, this is the first time that I have seen a drought this bad. It has killed so many animals and caused so much hunger. Our lives are in danger.
In Zimbabwe, the phenomenon destroyed crops and decimated livestock. The drought also increased an economic crisis in the cash-strapped country that has largely been deserted by foreign donors since 1999. In Malawi, about 2.8 million people were at risk of hunger after floods and drought hit the staple maize crop, reversing gains made in reducing rates of malnutrition over the past 2 decades. Malawi previously gave a fertilizer grant to small-scale farmers, but the cash-strapped government, starved of donor funds, has now scaled down on the program.
I am glad I have received this relief food. I literally had nothing at home. And with the rains this late, I will harvest nothing.
In Beloha, Madagascar, residents struggled with the country's 3rd consecutive year of drought. Many were forced to dig out riverbeds in search of water. Farmers like Flamina found it difficult to feed their families and harvested wild fruits for food.
We gather red cactus fruits and remove their spines, but this causes diarrhea. All of our neighbors are also suffering like us. Usually we grow maize, pulses and cassava. If only it was raining, we would have been happy. If only it was raining, we would be happy.
In Ethiopia, 10 million people were affected in the worst drought seen in the country in 50 years.